The US is helping Ukraine carry out strikes on Russian energy facilities. According to the Financial Times, the US is trying to weaken the economy of Russian dictator Vladimir Putin and force him to come to the negotiating table. According to sources cited by the publication, American intelligence data enabled Ukrainian forces to strike important Russian energy facilities. This includes oil refineries far from the front line. It is noted that the corresponding decision was likely made after a phone conversation between US President Donald Trump and Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky in July of this year. The publications report that at that time, Trump asked whether Ukraine could strike Moscow if Washington provided long-range weapons. As the Financial Times writes, the US president supported a strategy aimed at making the Russians feel pain and forcing the Kremlin to come to the negotiating table. Sources from the publication state that American intelligence is helping Kyiv to develop plans for routes, altitude, timing, and mission decisions, which allows Ukrainian drones to avoid Russian air defenses. It should be noted that on the evening of October 11th, explosions thundered in Russia's Belgorod, leaving part of the city without power. According to preliminary data, Tets Luch was attacked.
This
same Tets was attacked on October 6th. In addition, according to a source from Union, on the morning of October 11th, long-range drones from the Special Operations Center of the Security Service of Ukraine struck the Bashneft oil refinery, UNPZ. It is located in the city of Ufa, at a distance of 1,400 kilometers from Ukraine.
A massive fire has broken out in the Russian Federation. A Roscosmos facility is on fire. A cloud of white smoke has covered the Moscow region. An explosion occurred at a research center for the rocket and space industry in the city of Peresvet, Sergiev Posad district. We are in Mishutino. There was an explosion at the Rimash plant. According to information on the organization's website, the center conducts tests on stand-based processing of liquid rocket engines and propulsion systems using various fuel components, and tests spacecraft in a thermobaric chamber under simulated space conditions. The monitoring public page Exonova Plus suggested that the fire was caused by rocket engine tests. The public page Supernova Plus reported that the incident resulted in the release of toxic rocket fuel, heptil. Roscosmos has not reported anything about the explosion. According to the space agency, ground fire tests of the first stage of the Soyuz 5 rocket were conducted at the facility.
Key points of the test: an engine with 800 tons of thrust was used. The components were kerosene and liquid oxygen. Duration 160 seconds. The interaction of onboard systems was tested. The stage is also the first stage of a next-generation super heavy class rocket.
Roscosmos also noted that these tests effectively paved the way for the launch of Soyuz 5 from the Baikonur Cosmodrome at the end of this year. Earlier that day, Russian leader Vladimir Putin announced the alleged emergence of a new type of weapon, which Moscow is expected to unveil in the near future.
We are finalizing it, and I think we will have the opportunity to announce it soon. About the new weapon that we briefly announced previously.
The dictator noted that the tests of this weapon are allegedly proceeding successfully. There are still many cards the US can play to force Russia to make peace, said US Ambassador to NATO Matthew Whitaker.
President Trump wants to end Russia's war against Ukraine and continues to work very persistently to make that possible. He will continue to create the circumstances and leverage necessary to bring Russia to the negotiating table. We can talk about things like sanctions or the consequences for Russian oil and gas.
According to Whitaker, the measures discussed included both long-range strikes and the supply of more advanced weapon systems for sale to NATO and allies, and then for delivery to Ukraine.
There are almost, I don't want to say unlimited possibilities, but certainly there are many consequences for not reaching a peace agreement that can be applied against the Russians. Some of the things I haven't even mentioned yet are things the president is potentially considering doing.
Whitaker also recalled Trump's demands to Europe, which must act in sync with the US, in particular by refusing to purchase Russian energy resources. In his opinion, the war in Ukraine has not yet reached the point where Putin has decided that it is the right time to end it.
Putin has found himself in a situation where he cannot show weakness, even though he is incredibly weak.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated, Ukraine must respond to the enemy. This was his answer to the question of whether a blackout could occur in Moscow after the Russian Federation strike on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. In addition, the president of Ukraine noted that it is no longer a secret that Ukraine is expecting 2 Patriot systems this fall to repel Russian missile strikes.
Estonia has urgently closed part of its border with Russia after the appearance of armed so-called little green men. This was reported by ER. The police department released footage in which 7 armed men can be seen on the road. The decision to close the road, which partially runs through Russia's Pskov region, was made to prevent possible provocations and incidents. The head of the Border Guard Bureau of the Lyon Prefecture, Department of Police and Border Guard said,
On Friday, October 10th, our patrols observed throughout the day that there was significantly more activity than usual on the Russian side in the Saats area. We saw the movement of various armed groups at the border and in its immediate vicinity. From their uniforms, it was clear that they were not border guards.
He added that these groups began moving onto the road starting at 3 o'clock, and at some point they simply decided to line up across it. The Estonian Border Service requested information from the Russian side about what was happening in that area. They replied that these were absolutely routine activities. Russia is not only threatening NATO countries but also testing the alliance's resolve. Drones over Poland, MiGs in Estonian airspace, damaged cables in the Baltic Sea, and cyber attacks on airports. None of these actions are grounds for war, but together they form a dangerous Russian strategy. The president of the aggressor state, Vladimir Putin, is waging a grey campaign against NATO to destabilize Europe without open conflict. At the same time, Europe is ready to respond decisively. The European Parliament adopted a resolution calling on UN Security Council and EU countries to shoot down Russian drones and aircraft that violate the airspace of the European Union. This was stated in the official announcement of the European Parliament on October 9th. The European Union also proposed utilizing a drone wall to continuously monitor Russian oil tankers.
Starting November 1st, the American authorities are imposing 100% tariffs on all imports from China, in addition to the tariffs already in place. This was announced by US President Donald Trump. In addition, restrictions will be introduced on the export of all critically important software, Trump added. The head of the White House cited China's extremely aggressive stance in trade as the reason for introducing additional tariffs. According to Donald Trump, the Chinese authorities have warned other countries that starting November 1st, they will introduce export restrictions on almost all products manufactured in China.
This affects all countries without exception. This is absolutely unprecedented in international trade.
China has not yet commented on Trump's statement. According to Reuters, the US president is also threatening China with restrictions on the export of Boeing spare parts in response to Chinese sanctions. Thus, after China imposed restrictions on the export of rare earth metals, crucial for the production of electronics, weapons, and aviation, Washington is preparing an asymmetric response, betting on Beijing's dependence on American aviation technologies.
They have a lot of our planes, and they need spare parts and much more.
According to aviation analytics firm Cirium, Chinese airlines operate more than 1,800 Boeing aircraft and have 222 active orders for new planes, most of which are airliners that require constant technical maintenance and the supply of components from the US. Analysts note that even a minor restriction on the export of parts could paralyze part of China's aircraft fleet. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump denied his earlier statement about allegedly canceling the meeting with Chinese leader Xi Jinping.
No, I haven't canceled it, but I'm going there anyway. So I suppose that maybe the meeting will still take place. But you know, they did something that the world simply cannot accept.
Earlier, the American president cast doubt on his meeting with the chairman of the PRC, which was scheduled for the end of October as part of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in South Korea.
A new armed conflict has erupted in the world. Fierce armed clashes have broken out on the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan. This was reported on the evening of Saturday, October 11th by AFP, citing high-ranking officials from several provinces of Afghanistan. It is noted that forces of the Taliban terrorist group and the Pakistani army opened fire on each other amid escalating tensions between the countries. According to media reports, in several regions, Pakistani troops were forced to abandon their positions. 2 days earlier, Afghanistan accused Pakistan of carrying out airstrikes on Afghan territory. Afghanistan's Ministry of Defense stated,
Afghanistan launched a successful counter-operation against Pakistani security forces along the hypothetical Durand Line in response to repeated violations of Afghan territory by the Pakistani army and airstrikes on Afghan soil.
According to Pakistani sources, on the evening of October 11th, Afghan troops opened fire at several points along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border. According to their reports, Pakistan responded with heavy artillery, tanks, drones, and also scrambled fighter jets. Clashes took place in 7 border provinces, with heavy weaponry and vehicles being used, including those left behind by the US after the withdrawal of its contingent from Afghanistan. Preliminary reports indicate that at least 12 people have been killed. Afghanistan has already declared the successful completion of its retaliation operation, but military clashes between the countries could resume at any moment. Pakistan has previously carried out strikes against Afghanistan, but this is the first time that Kabul has been targeted. It is known that the country possesses nuclear weapons, with estimates of its arsenal ranging from 60 to 170 warheads.
Workers at the Primorskaya GARES, the most powerful thermal power plant in Russia's Far East, are on strike due to unpaid wages. According to several media outlets, a crew of more than 60 people has been forced to take extreme measures. The workers are spending the night right at the industrial facility. Earlier, Gazprom workers in Kamchatka also went on strike due to wage arrears.
At the same time, we work 27 days a month for 11 hours a day. We had informed the company management in advance about the suspension of work until the debt is paid. There has been no response from management, no dialogue at all. Many workers whose business trips have ended are buying tickets home at their own expense.
The striking workers said that they are being threatened.
We are currently being given clear and unmistakable hints that this forced and unwarranted work stoppage will absolutely not go unpunished.
Former Moscow City Duma Deputy Evgeny Stupin then expressed his support for the workers.
All of this is a reason to reflect on the state of the economy. If even Gazprom is having problems with salaries, then what must be happening with the country's budget?
According to Reuters, citing sources, a wave of forced layoffs and the transfer of employees to reduced work weeks has reached the Russian metallurgy sector, one of the key non-resource industries which accounts for almost 20% of all industrial production in the country. This happened due to falling demand, expensive loans, and deteriorating financial performance. According to Rosstat, last year metallurgists reduced output by 1.5%. This is despite the demand from defense factories. In 2025, the decline accelerated into a collapse. In July, it amounted to more than 10%. The Telegraph reports, Russian dictator Vladimir Putin has found himself in the most difficult position of his rule. According to the publication, the economic war is depleting Russia faster than the army is gaining an advantage on the front line. A series of precise Ukrainian strikes on oil refineries has effectively paralyzed a significant part of the Russian Federation's energy sector. According to the Naftogaz agency, 38% of the country's main oil refining capacities are not operational. Meanwhile, Russia is reducing the signing bonuses for joining the army. For example, in Russia's Tatarstan region alone, the payments have been cut by almost 7 times.
Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban accused Ukrainian intelligence of allegedly hacking into the smartphones of Hungarians and supposedly helping the Hungarian opposition. Orban said this to state radio and also published an excerpt from the interview on the social network X. The Hungarian Prime Minister stated that Ukrainian intelligence infiltrated the country through, as he put it, the pro-Ukrainian party TISA. He also said that Ukrainians are allegedly actively working to change the government in Hungary. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine responded to Viktor Orban's hysterical statements. The spokesperson for the agency, Georgi Tiki, stated that accusations from Hungary against Ukraine have become constant and their absurdity is only increasing. At the briefing, he said, "We
see anti-Ukrainian hysteria emanating from Viktor Orban, his government, and his officials. It has nothing to do with reality. I want to refute all these insane accusations."
Tiki added that, in his words, this absurdity is growing and apparently will continue to grow during the election campaign. However, the Hungarian politician did not stop there. On his Facebook page on October 11th, Viktor Orban announced that he was launching a petition among Hungarians against Brussels' military plan to support Ukraine in the war. According to him, Hungary is on the verge of a heated autumn, as Europe is allegedly hurtling ever faster toward war. It should be noted that Viktor Orban is known for his pro-Russian stance. He has repeatedly threatened to do everything in his power to prevent Ukraine from joining the European Union. The politician has also called for lifting sanctions on Russia, as he believes they cause significant harm to Europe.